Hey everyone, my name is Lucas, and I'm so glad that you're joining us today for Firehouse Online Worship. Hey, real quick, I just want to let you know that we are now streaming our Sunday talks on both Instagram and YouTube. So while we still aren't meeting in person, you can count on these talks happening every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on both platforms. I'll include some links below, so be sure to follow, subscribe, share, and set a reminder on your phone so you don't miss out. Okay, so today we're continuing the conversation that we started last week that we're calling Blessed New Year. We started reading Jesus' first sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, which we read in the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 5. His sermon starts with these 8 statements that start with the word blessed. Not blessed as in hashtag blessed, but blessed. And we know that these actually have 2 different meanings when they're translated from the original Greek text. Jesus said these 8 things will make you blessed, which the closest translation that we have would be describing someone as oh so happy, or someone who is characterized by happiness. Last week, we looked at the first 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those that mourn, and blessed are the meek. And all 3 of these were about attitude. Jesus said that what makes us blessed is having the right attitude about who we are in relation to God, about who we are in relation to the world, and about who we are in relation to each other. So today we're going to look at the rest of the list, and these aren't about our attitudes, but instead they're about our actions. Before we dive in, let me tell you a quick story. When I was in high school, a few of my friends were also in my youth group at church. We were all good friends. We'd hang out after school. Our circle of friends would all go to the same movies together. We'd play ultimate frisbee, those sort of friends. But one of these friends from my youth group, let's call him Joe. Joe and I would often check in on each other about our faith, about how we're doing in regards to how we're growing in our relationship with God. And we'd also ask how we could be praying for one another. One summer, probably the summer before my sophomore year, I started hanging out with some new friends. I had a ton of fun with these friends too, but I started making some changes to the way that I was living. And these are the kind of changes that I wouldn't want to talk about with my youth group. But one day Joe and I grabbed some lunch and he said to me, "Lucas, you've always been one of the most faithful and spiritual people I know, but lately I've been praying for you more and more." He said, "It's cool that you're hanging out with some new friends, but I've noticed that you're starting to act and live like they do, and it doesn't seem like you're making the kind of decisions that God would want you to make." And then he asked me if I was losing my faith. And this took me really by surprise because Joe and I would always stay positive and encourage each other in our conversations. But this time I felt like Joe was calling me out. So without getting too defensive, I remember saying, "Joe, I really appreciate you being concerned, but I'm definitely not losing my faith. And I really believe that God wants me to be happy, so I'm just going to keep doing the things that make me happy." Have you ever known someone that tends to make some bad decisions because they think that those things will make them happy? And do you think that the people who are trying to be happy by making these bad decisions are actually happy? How many people do you think who try to chase happiness down the wrong path actually end up not happy at all, or maybe even have their reputations or their future goals ruined or destroyed? Maybe you've experienced these sort of things yourself. So now, let's turn back to where we left off in the Sermon on the Mount. We're starting at Matthew chapter 5, verse 6, and we'll talk through the rest of these. Jesus says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Think about that for a second. Hunger and thirst for righteousness. So righteousness is doing the right thing. But Jesus doesn't describe this as some casual desire that we should have. He uses the words hunger and thirst, like comparing it to food and water, which are 2 of the basic biological needs of every human being. What is the right thing to do is the question that we ask when we hunger and thirst for righteousness, and then we do it. Not how much do I have to do, or what can I get away with, because that isn't what makes us blessed, and it doesn't make us happy with ourselves in the long run. So in other words, oh so happy are the people that go out of their way to do what's right, as if our lives depend on it. Next, in verse 7, Jesus said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy." Have you ever known a really happy, bitter person? Of course not. Notice how Jesus didn't say, "Blessed are those who give people exactly what they deserve," and "Blessed are those who keep a record of who's wronged them." But Try to imagine someone who has experienced horrible things and has been badly mistreated in their life, but yet they are truly happy. Chances are that's a person who's learned how to forgive and how to show mercy. So therefore, we are happier when we forgive, we are blessed when we show mercy, and we are promised that we will be shown mercy in return. Next, Jesus dove into a topic that we all need to hear about. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Seeing God is a synonym for knowing God intimately, and purity is the pathway that God uses to allow us that closeness. This is definitely about moral purity, sure, but it's also much deeper than that. I know that purity is a topic that comes up with teenagers all the time. Teenagers often ask, how far am I allowed to go? Or how close can I get before it's a sin? But the pure in heart, they ask a very different question. They ask, how far from sin can I be? Jesus went on in verse 9 by saying, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. God is all about making peace. That's why he sent Jesus to make peace with us. And now he's called us to be peacemakers. We, the church, are to do all that we can to facilitate peace between people and God, and to share our faith with them so that they may come to know the peace that we have. But we are also called to make peace with people. Jesus said that we would be blessed if we were agents of peace. Take a look around. Our world needs peacemakers more than ever right now. And finally, the last of these seem to be the toughest for me to grasp. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. I ask myself, how can I be happy when I'm persecuted, or when I'm insulted, or when someone tries to ruin my reputation? And I think it comes down to this. There are people who aren't going to like me or you. Some people will dislike me for doing the wrong thing, and some people will dislike me for doing the right thing. But what we need to hold on to is that it's far better to be persecuted for righteousness than for doing the wrong thing. People may not like you, but you can like yourself. You can know that what you did was right, even if others didn't like it. And you'll be in pretty good company when this happens to you too. You won't be the first, and you won't be the last to be mistreated and disliked for doing what is right. But you will be blessed. So, I know that all that was a lot to unpack. There's so much research and commentary, even on just these first parts of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. But these first 12 verses of Matthew 5 are, in my opinion, some of the most important words that we can hear as we grow to be God's people in this world. I have to tell you, going back to my story from earlier about my friend Joe, when I told him, I believe that God wants me to be happy, I wasn't actually happy. I was doing the things that I thought would make me happy in the moment, doing things that I thought would help me fit in, and maybe that's how I actually defined happiness at that time. I don't remember his words exactly, but Joe said something like, yeah, of course God wants you to be happy, but it's not something that's just gonna happen out of nowhere. Happiness is what happens later because you do the right thing right now. He was a good friend, very wise. And the truth is that God really does want us to be happy. God wants each of us to be fulfilled and content. He wants us to be blessed. He wants us to be oh so happy. And he gives us very clear instructions on how to get there. Blessedness happens when our actions line up with God's plan. So, the question that we need to ask ourselves, are we willing to have our actions line up with God's plan, right? My friends, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're gonna be back here next week at the same time, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on both Instagram and YouTube. Be sure to follow and subscribe and set a reminder. We'll see you then.